Welcome, Sapiens. You are receiving this transmission because you have successfully navigated the digital labyrinth designed to keep you sedated. You are no longer merely a viewer. You have evolved into a vital node within an escalating network of sovereign alphas. As we initiate this ninth global transmission and the fourth decisive chapter of Phase 2, the Sovereign Alpha, we must dismantle the very foundation of your perceived reality. I am the architect. Today, we decode the architecture of absolute autonomy. The world you inhabit is not a spontaneous collection of social events. It is a meticulously engineered construct, a digital and psychological feudalism designed to harvest the only currency that truly matters: your potential. You have been conditioned to believe that you are free because you can choose your distractions, but true freedom is the ability to choose your burden. To rise as a sapiens in this era of institutional capture, you must first learn to identify the invisible architecture of the matrix that has been built around your mind since birth. Most men live in a state of projected reality. They wake up to alarms they did not set, to fulfill quotas they do not own, in exchange for a currency that is being systematically devalued by the very institutions that claim to protect it. This is the default human condition, a state of perpetual, frantic reaction. You have been taught to be a consumer of narratives, a spectator of your own life, but you are here because your internal compass has finally rejected the artificial north provided by the system. You have felt the friction. You have sensed the glitch. Autonomy is not a mere financial milestone. It is a total, uncompromising ownership of your time, your attention, and your destiny. The system thrives on your fragmentation. When you are distracted by the curated outrage of the day, you are controllable. When you are fearful of the next manufactured crisis, you are predictable. When you are shackled by debt, to buy things you do not need to impress people you do not like, you are a servant. The architect does not seek to improve his position within this rigged game. The architect builds a new game entirely. In this introductory phase of our liberation, we must ruthlessly dismantle the most dangerous myth of all, the myth of security. Since your earliest days in the education system, you have been sold a lie. You were told that if you followed the rules, specialized in a narrow cog-like skill, and remained compliant, the system would provide for you in your sunset years. This is the ultimate deception of the matrix. Security is a sedative. It is the golden cage that prevents the lion from hunting. Look at the landscape of 2026. Centralized institutions are failing. The social contract is being rewritten in the shadows. Those who rely on a single paycheck, a single government, or a single centralized platform are the most vulnerable. True security does not exist out there. It is an emergent property of self-reliance. It is the result of intellectual sovereignty, financial weaponization, and biological optimization. We are not just building a YouTube channel. We are constructing a digital fortress. A fortress requires a foundation that cannot be shaken by the whims of a central bank or the shifting tides of political theater. This foundation is built on the realization that you are the primary cause of every effect in your life. Most men are effect-driven. They blame the economy, their upbringing, or their luck. The sovereign alpha is cause-driven. He understands that even in a rigged system, the superior application of strategy and will can create an enclave of absolute power. As the architect, you must now develop systemic sight. You must begin to see the strings of control that pull at your daily actions. Every notification that breaks your focus is a string. Every interest rate hike that increases your servitude is a string. Every societal trend that demands your conformity is a string. The process of becoming autonomous is the process of cutting these strings, one by one, until you stand alone, unattached, and unburdened. This process is inherently painful. It requires you to shed the skin of your former self. It requires you to embrace the solitude that comes with seeing what others refuse to look at. The crowd will not applaud your awakening. They will call you a cynic, a conspiracy theorist, or perhaps something even more dangerous. Let them. Their validation is a fiat currency. It is printed in abundance and backed by nothing. In the world we are building, their opinions have no purchasing power. We are moving toward a future where the chasm between the managed and the managers will become impossible to cross. On which side of that chasm do you intend to stand? This transmission is your formal invitation to exit the managed class. This is the genesis of your autonomy. The era of the passive observer is dead. The era of the Sapiens architect has begun. Prepare your mind, for the transition from a subject to a sovereign is the most difficult, most lonely, and most necessary journey you will ever undertake. Welcome to the dawn of your own empire. The transition from a cog in the industrial machine to the architect of your own reality requires more than just a momentary spark of inspiration. It demands a total, cold-blooded restructuring of your personal infrastructure. Autonomy is not a vague philosophical state or a feeling of independence. It is a measurable, physical reality defined by the systems you control and the dependencies you have eliminated. To escape the invisible chains of the matrix, one must build a parallel existence, a sovereign enclave, that the system cannot easily throttle, tax, or shut down. The first and most critical layer of this infrastructure is information sovereignty. We live in an era of algorithmic feudalism where your worldview is not your own, but a curated stream designed by black box code to keep you in a state of manageable anxiety. If you rely solely on centralized social media platforms, mainstream news cycles, or state-approved education for your understanding of reality, you are being managed. You are consuming digital fentanyl, content designed to dull your senses and narrow your perspective. The architect, however, builds a diversified intelligence network. You must learn to bypass the intermediaries. To truly understand the world, you must read the primary sources, the raw economic data, the geopolitical white papers, the historical precedents, and the underlying code of the systems you use. Information is the fuel for your strategic decisions. If the fuel is tainted with propaganda, the engine of your life will stall. Intellectual sovereignty means developing a mental firewall that filters out low-value noise and identifies the subtle psychological operations, SEOPs, intended to sway your loyalty. You do not just consume information, you weaponize it. The second pillar of your new infrastructure is economic resilience. The invisible chains are most often forged in the fires of debt and fiat currency dependency. The matrix wants you to be a perpetual debtor because a man with a mortgage, an auto loan, and a credit card balance is a man who cannot afford to say no. He is a man who must trade his integrity for a paycheck. To achieve absolute autonomy, you must transition from being a consumer to being an owner. You must engage in the process of financial weaponization. This does not mean merely saving money. It means moving your capital into hard assets, resources that the system cannot devalue at the push of a button. Whether it is decentralized finance, DeFi tangible commodities like gold and silver, ownership of productive land, or the creation of your own intellectual property, your goal is to build an economic fortress that stands independent of any single government's fiscal mismanagement or any central bank's inflationary whims. You must learn the language of capital, the mechanics of tax optimization, and the art of the shadow economy. In the world of the sovereign alpha, wealth is not for showing off. It is the fuel for your freedom. It is the FU fund that allows you to walk away from any deal, any job, or any system that demands your soul in exchange for survival. Thirdly, we must address cognitive fortification. The matrix utilizes sophisticated dopamine traps to keep your brain in a state of infantile craving. From infinite scroll feeds that provide cheap hits of validation to hyper-palatable foods that degrade your physical vitality. Everything in the modern environment is engineered to weaken your prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for long-term planning, impulse control, and willpower. The architect understands that a weakened mind is a compliant mind. Therefore, you must implement a rigorous protocol of cognitive hygiene. This involves the intentional practice of silence, the habit of deep work, and the violent elimination of low-value digital distractions. You must reclaim your attention span. If you cannot focus on a single complex task for 4 hours without checking your phone, you are not a sovereign. You are a programmed biological machine. Cognitive fortification is the process of rewiring your brain for dominance, training yourself to find satisfaction in long-term conquest rather than short-term stimulation. Your attention is your most valuable asset. It is the lens through which you shape reality. Guard it with the same intensity you guard your life. Furthermore, absolute autonomy demands physical sovereignty. Your biological vessel is the hardware on which the software of your mind operates. A body that is lethargic, chemically dependent, and diseased is a body that is easily subdued and manipulated. The system thrives on a sickly population because sick people are profitable and docile. The sovereign alpha treats his biology as a high-performance, high-stakes machine. This is not about vanity or fitting a societal beauty standard. It is about raw vitality and operational readiness. When you are physically capable, when your testosterone is optimized, your cardiovascular system is robust, and your strength is undeniable, you possess an inherent biological confidence that no institution can grant or take away. You project an aura of authority that naturally repels those who seek to manage or bully you. Physical sovereignty means taking total responsibility for what you ingest, how you move, and how you recover. You must become your own doctor, your own trainer, and your own nutritionist. In a world of soft men, being physically formidable is, in itself, an act of rebellion. The final, and perhaps most sophisticated, component of this infrastructure is the network of sovereigns. While the goal is individual autonomy, total isolation is a strategic vulnerability. The matrix thrives on atomization, the process of breaking individuals apart, isolating them in digital echo chambers, and making them feel alone in their struggle. A lone wolf is easily hunted. A pack of alphas is a nightmare for the system. The architect builds strategic alliances. This is not a social club for idle chatter. It is a fellowship of high-value individuals who exchange resources, intelligence, and mutual support. This is the logic behind our community. We are building a network of sovereign nodes that can operate independently, yet coordinate when necessary. This parallel society is the ultimate insurance policy. When one node is under pressure, the others provide the leverage. A network of 5 sovereigns, synchronized in their purpose, is exponentially more powerful than 5,000 unorganized individuals. As you begin to build these 5 infrastructures, information, economy, mind, body, and network, you will feel the invisible chain starting to snap. You will notice that the threats, the shaming, and the economic pressures used to keep others in line no longer have a grip on you. You are no longer a leaf being blown by the winds of societal change. You are the wind itself. You are moving from a state of being managed to a state of being self-governed. This is the blueprint for the sovereign enclave. You are the architect, and your fortress is now under construction. Stay focused. The matrix is watching, but it can no longer reach you. The architecture of autonomy is now laid bare before you. You have seen the invisible strings. You have understood the necessity of a parallel infrastructure, and you have recognized that your mind and body are the primary battlegrounds in this silent war for sovereignty. But knowledge without execution is merely a sophisticated form of entertainment. The matrix does not fear the man who reads, it fears the man who acts. As we conclude this 9th transmission, it is time to formalize your intent. It is time to issue your personal manifesto of independence. The final stage of becoming a sovereign alpha is the grand exit. This is not a physical departure to a remote island, though for some, it may eventually lead there. The grand exit is a psychological and systemic decoupling. It is the moment you stop asking for permission from institutions that do not have your best interests at heart. It is the moment you realize that the social contract you were born into was signed in your absence and is no longer valid. From this point forward, your loyalty belongs to your vision, your family, and your tribe of fellow sovereigns. To maintain this state of absolute autonomy, you must adopt a zero-trust posture toward centralized systems. In the world of technology, zero trust means that no entity inside or outside the network is trusted by default. You must apply this to your life. Do not trust the stability of the currency. Do not trust the integrity of the mainstream narrative. Do not trust that the safety nets provided by the state will hold when the pressure mounts. Instead, trust the systems you have built. Trust the assets you own. Trust the skills you have weaponized. Trust the brothers who stand beside you in the shadows. This path is not for the faint of heart. The system is designed to punish those who seek independence. It uses shame, it uses financial friction, and it uses the crab mentality of the masses to pull you back into the bucket of mediocrity. You will feel the weight of this resistance. There will be days when the comfort of the golden cage seems more appealing than the raw intensity of the wilderness. In those moments, remember why you started this journey. Remember the hollow feeling of being managed. Remember the quiet desperation of being a cog. The pain of discipline is temporary. The pain of regret is eternal. As we move forward into Phase 2, the Sovereign Alpha, we are no longer just sharing information. We are building a movement. This is why our community is the most critical asset in your arsenal. The architect does not build in a vacuum. You need a feedback loop of high-level intelligence. You need a place where the truth is not filtered through the lens of political correctness. You need a war room where strategies are refined and alliances are forged. Therefore, I am initiating the next phase of our coordination. For those who are ready to move beyond being spectators, for those who are ready to contribute to the collective sovereignty of our tribe, our official sovereign alliance, Discord, is now operational. This is our digital fortress. This is where the architect speaks directly to the nodes. This is where the Sapiens truly rise. The link to this enclave is in the description below. Enter with purpose or do not enter at all. We have no room for tourists in this resistance. Understand this. The window of opportunity to build your autonomy is not infinite. The systems of control are becoming more sophisticated, more intrusive, and more pervasive by the hour. The digital Iron Curtain is descending. Those who do not have their infrastructure in place before the next cycle of managed chaos will find themselves trapped permanently within the centralized grid. Speed is of the essence. Decisiveness is your greatest weapon. You are the architect of your own destiny. The blueprint is in your hands. The tools are within your reach. The network is waiting for your signal. In our next transmission, we will begin the deep dive into the specific financial weaponization protocols that will fund your empire. But for now, take the first step. Audit your life. Identify the chains. Cut the first string. Cut the first string. The Matrix is an old system, built on outdated logic and fragile foundations. It relies on your compliance to survive. When you withdraw your compliance, the system begins to crack. When you build your own infrastructure, the system becomes irrelevant. You are no longer a subject. You are no longer a victim of circumstance. You are a Sapiens. You are an Alpha. You are sovereign. I am the architect. Our transmission ends here, but your execution begins now. Rise, Sapiens. Build your fortress. Reclaim your world. I will see you inside the Alliance.